Equity Trust Company is a passive custodian and does not provide tax, legal, or investment advice. Any information communicated by Equity is for educational purposes only and should not be construed as tax, legal, or investment advice. Whenever making an investment decision, please consult with your tax attorney or financial professional. Equity does not endorse any speaker or presenter before you today. The opinions or ideas expressed are not necessarily those of Equity Trust Company, nor do they reflect their views or endorsement. These materials are for informational purposes only. Furthermore, all case studies provided are for educational purposes only. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Investing involves risk, including the possible loss of principal. Because of the technical nature of the material and the fact that the laws and the markets are ever changing, we strongly recommend that you engage the assistance of a competent, qualified professional before implementing any ideas discussed today. Thank you.
In this session, we're going to be talking about rehabbing houses and buying rentals in our self-directed IRA. And joining me is Candace Parr. There you go. All right. Fan club. Yep. Which is great. They've made investing a complete family affair now. This is Gary, her husband. So everyone say hi to Gary. He's in tow, in support. So they're full-time investors, and you guys have been in the business for what, 20-plus years? About 15 years. Actively rehabbing, and they also own some rentals. And we're going to talk through some case studies in just a moment. One of the reasons why I selected Candace for this session is because the transactions they're doing, I would consider basic transactions. They're buying houses with their IRA, typically at county auctions. They're putting money into them and they're selling them for a profit. Or on a few occasions you'll see that they're managing a few rentals. So they're looking to increase the velocity of their retirement plans to grow wealth tax-free, but they also have some more passive, longer-term cash-flowing transactions as well. So for those of you that are brand new to this concept, you've never done a deal in a self-directed IRA, you're going to learn from one or two people that started, 5-6 years ago with their first IRA. Candace rolled over a 401k into a self-directed traditional IRA. Gary started a Roth IRA at that time with, I want to say, a $5,000 contribution. So he only had $5,000 in the Roth IRA. They partnered together their IRAs to start building the balance of that account, flipping some houses. And now Gary owns a duplex in Bedford, correct? And it has an after repair value of, I want to say, maybe around $120,000, $125,000. All in, purchase and rehab was about, I want to say, $80,000. So he's able to accumulate $80,000, accumulate enough capital to be able to do one of those deals in a fairly short period of time. So that frames up sort of what we're going to be talking about. What I want to do before I do that is go through some equity trust matters and some equity trust items. I'm going to build the foundation. The first one, of course, just as you've seen in several other sessions, is our general disclaimer. Equity Trust Company is here to provide education and information. We don't solicit investments. We don't perform due diligence on your behalf. It's important that you engage in these types of activities, due diligence activities, in order to ensure that the investments that you're making are suitable for your portfolio. Furthermore, because we do have guest lectures here, I don't anticipate on Candace saying anything crazy or anything illegal or making any solicitations, but the opinions or ideas expressed are not necessarily those of Equity Trust Company, nor do they reflect their views or endorsements, okay? These materials are for informational purposes only. So that being said, I want to mention that Equity Trust has a technology platform which enables our investors, and Jeff Desich talked about this a little bit earlier today, and then he mentioned that we're going to continue to expand on the build-out of this technology platform. But this technology platform really enables you to process your transactions in a more systematic, more seamless way, and do it on your time. And I think that's very, very important, doing it on your time. So you don't have to call in between 9 and 6 Monday through Friday in order to create a transaction. You can do a lot of this online. And for people that have been with Equity Trust for a number of years, some of them are accustomed to going through that same process, which is okay. We have support staff. We have 425 employees. You call in, we can help you with that process. But for those of you that have more technological abilities and you would prefer to self-serve, I would encourage you to go online and start these processes because it happens a lot faster for you and it just increases the efficiency of all of your transactions. So the MyEquity platform is really the platform, the foundation for you to build your investments off of. So in the context of buying real estate, you can go online and you would say, Equity Trust Company, I want to buy a property. The property address is 123 Main Street. The closing date, I believe, is such and such a date. The total amount of the purchase is, let's call it $100,000. And the title company that I'm using is, let's say, American Title, and Kathy is our escrow agent, okay? And from there, you're going to receive confirmation and a request to document sign the direction of investment form. So done all online. You don't have to print a direction of investment form and check it over and sign it and be worried about if you didn't complete something correctly. Because the system, if you don't input the data or input things correctly, it's going to kick it back to you and say, you didn't fill out this blank. Please fill out the blank before you can move forward. In addition to the e-signature, you also have the functionality through the MyEquity portal to document upload all of your documents. And this is a critical piece of this technology which enables our customers to do everything from their mobile device, their tablet, their PC. They don't have to scan in documents. They don't have to fax in documents and be worried about did they get received or not. A gentleman I work with, in fact, and he might be in this room or may not be in this room, he actually talked about, he said, every time I have to use my fax machine, I get so upset. I got to go down in the basement. I got to clear off the dirty laundry from the fax machine and pull it out, right? You know, we're in the 21st century here, so it's important that we develop these pieces of technology for our customers. So I encourage you to use the MyEquity functionality. If you have questions about it, you can call in and one of our associates can actually walk you through it over the phone. You know, if you're doing your very first transaction and you're not sure how do I title the investment, what documents does Equity Trust need to sign, what don't they sign, how do I sign the documents that I can sign, how does all of that work, give us a call and an investment liaison will step you through that process and then help you through the self-serving mechanism online go through the process accordingly. So what I wanted to show to you here is just a snapshot of what it looks like from a mobile device. So it was just the other week, I went on through my cell phone and I said, okay, I'm going to see if I can process a transaction in under 3 minutes. And I was able to effectively, simulated, process a real estate purchase through my mobile device in under 3 minutes, okay? First time, it's probably going to take you maybe 5, maybe 10 minutes, right? Get familiar with it. Second transaction, you're getting it done in under 3 minutes. Rinse and repeat. So the first step of the process is the purchase contract, right? So you're going to buy a property, you execute a purchase contract. Who is the buyer? Is the buyer you? The IRA. So Equity Trust Company, custodian, and then FBO, your name IRA. So there needs to be for benefit of. You'll see that's actually missing from this slide. Equity Trust Company, custodian, FBO, your name IRA. Now, let's assume that we send in our purchase contract to Equity Trust Company as Equity Trust Company, custodian, account holder, name IRA. What do you think is going to happen? Right, Equity Trust is going to kick that back. It's very, very important that that titling is proper. Equity Trust Company, custodian, FBO is in for benefit of, your name or account number IRA. Purchase contract is in the name of the IRA or the account number. Now, purchase contracts, who signs the purchase contract? Does Equity Trust sign the purchase contract? No, Equity Trust doesn't sign the purchase contract. You sign the purchase contract. You're the one ultimately that's in the driver's seat making those decisions. You're sending us a copy of the purchase contract. Yes, sir.
But is the
you are using your John Hancock. So if your John Hancock is legible, then yes, someone might be able to identify that. If it's not legible, right? Correct, correct. If you needed equity, I have seen in some narrow circumstances where someone needs to have equity trust sign the purchase contract. You as the account holder have to sign first as read and approved. You send us a copy of that purchase contract, and then we would countersign it. Purchase contract, you process the investment through My Equity, upload the purchase contract, document upload all of your closing documents. Your investment liaison reaches out to you, as Jeff was talking about earlier, and they will help process the transaction. You're giving them the authorization to reach out to the title company, make contact with them, get the closing documents, we sign the closing documents, and then we send those to the title company. All right, so moving on. Candace, this is where I'm gonna let you take over control. So this is a transaction that Candace completed in August of 2017, and she bought it at the Cuyahoga County auction, is that correct?
No, Summit.
Summit County auction, okay. Summit County auction, bought it for $80,100. And again, she bought it at the auction. So logistically, we got to figure out how to get the money from the IRA ahead of time, right? We got to figure out how to get the money from the IRA to the county, right? In about 30 days. And then we got to figure out how to get money from the IRA to pay for the rehab. We have to find the people to rehab the house, right? Can Gary and Candace go over there and do the work themselves? No. Rule of thumb to use in the industry, you can write this down. You can do the desk work, but not the sweat equity. Okay, I'll say that again. You can do the desk work and not the sweat equity. So we have some things we need to talk about through this case study and how Candace put all of this together. So Candace, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to let you take it from the very top all the way through in terms of how you found the property, how you put the down payment down, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. Yes, the sheriff sales we frequent, that's not our only deals. We do off-market or MLS even if we find a good deal, our realtor finds a good deal. But this one is a sheriff sale, and what we do is, we research them. Usually a month ahead of time, we'll start doing some investigation. A lot of due diligence, researching the property. You can't get in most of them. Well, you can't get in any of them, but you cannot, people may be living in them. So you cannot go in them at all. You can't even peek in the windows usually. So just do due diligence. We talk to neighbors and just scope out the area. We even call building inspectors and see if they've been in the house recently. So we do our research on it, figure out what we're going to offer before we go to the sale, what is our maximum bid. And we go to the sale and have the check ready, which I request quite ahead of time. So I always have, probably about 6 checks on hand that I keep for the sheriff sales, the tax sales, and that way I'm ready to go. And I just hold on to them from the IRA. I'll request them and just hold on to them. And then after, pardon me? How do you know how much to ask for? Well, I just do, usually if it's under 100,000, all the tax sales are different each county, so you have to look at what they are. So if it's under 100,000 value for the tax department, it depends what county. It could be $5,000 or it could be $10,000. So I just usually, yeah, right. If it's a tax sale, it's $1,000 usually, and most of the sales. So I have those checks ready to go, and even if, say, I'm not sure if I'm buying a property over 100,000, I'll get a check, and that way I have it. What's the worst that can happen? They just apply it, right? You don't need the exact amount. So, if I only needed $5,000, I had a $10,000 check, they could just apply it to the purchase of the property. So then it usually, depending on what county, it takes about 4 weeks, sometimes longer, 6 weeks, could take 8 weeks to get the properties. The property has to be paid depending on what county you go to in your state. They do have to be paid in a certain amount of time. You could pay them maybe up to 30 days, some of the counties, but you pay interest. So just keep that in mind. So I will get the payoff amount. After the sale, I'll call usually the next day, get the payoff amount, and all I do is request the check from Equity Trust, and actually they're local, so I can pick up the check, or they can mail it to me, either way. And I usually always have the checks mailed to me. I don't have them mailed directly pretty much anywhere. It depends, unless it's a utility, but I usually have those checks sent to me. And then I just go in and pay off the amount, within a few days or a week.
Is this a foreclosure sale or a property tax?
This is a sheriff's sale, foreclosure. Yes, not a tax, but a foreclosure. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot about that. Yes, I do. That's in the due diligence. You want to do a title search if you're serious about a property, and if you have a relationship with your local title company, they'll do those for you. Title search.
Candace, how does that work at the county auctions? If you're buying a property from the county auction, they're going to be, before they deed you the property, is there still risk of there being encumbrances or title blemishes?
Well, they need to disclose with
Okay.
their investigating if there's, they do not, if you do a lien, search on the property for liens, there could be an IRS lien on the property that it does not come up. What was the other one? There's one other one that could come up, but when you're doing the county will disclose that, subject to second mortgage, or if there's a IRS lien, the county discloses those.
And that's at the time of auction, they're disclosing, so you know
Right.
when you're
Well,
bidding.
before. Right.
You know when you're
before.
bidding on the property, you're bidding on this property and it has X
It'll say
encumbrances.
subject to.
Okay.
But then we also do our own lien search, so you're doing what you can to do your due diligence. Due diligence is like key to everything, because you don't want to get stuck with back taxes, or you really have to do your research. So this one was a sheriff's sale foreclosure, and we purchased it for $80,100. The repairs were $18,000, and we don't do any of the work ourselves on our IRAs properties. So the total investment we have on this one was $98,100. And we listed it, forget what we listed that one for, close 145-ish, or I don't remember. Maybe 150, and it sold within 24 hours. We had offers on it. And closing costs, the net profit that went back into my IRA was $36,800. And I just want to mention, I worked for many years in the medical field, and when September 11th hit, as maybe some of you may know if you remember that, my IRA went in half. You know how the market just went kapooey, and it took me so many years to recoup it, and I didn't even recoup it all. And when I switched over 4 or 5 years ago to Equity Trust, in a year I doubled my money. So that's so important. I mean, if you're thinking about this, we looked into it. We saw you speak at the National REHAB about 6 years ago, and I wish we would have signed up right then. And we didn't, and we waited, and and we're like, well, I don't really understand it, but it was like, God, we should have did it. I mean, it's so easy. They make it so simple. I mean, they're just fantastic with education. Walk you through the whole process if you have a problem. Once you buy a property, the title company takes over. Just deal with the title company that is familiar with the IRAs. They take over for you. You don't hear from them. I mean, until the property closes, I don't hear anything. It's fantastic, and it's such a simple process. So if I can do it, all of you can do it.
So on the acquisition side, you're acquiring it. There's no purchase contract in this instance, right? Because you're bidding on the property at the auction sale.
No purchase contract.
So
right.
To demonstrate what the money's going to be used for, Candace is just providing to Equity Trust Company an advertisement for the auction sale. I assume, do you use something online, or do you use newspaper? What do you typically provide?
Oh, I have to provide the sale, the printout of the sale.
Okay.
Yes, I do. They request that.
Okay.
Right.
Now, when you go to closing, the closing documents, you're sending those into Equity Trust for signature.
Right.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. And I know you've just been scanning and emailing those in. Now you have the
Correct.
capability of document
Right.
upload,
Right,
but ultimately those documents are coming into Equity Trust Company. We're signing them,
Right.
sending them off to the title company. Okay.
and the bill pays. He said 3 minutes. I could do it in a minute.
Okay.
I just go through, when I pay my
Yeah.
bills, and it's like a minute.
So-
So it's so easy. Everything's plugged in and it's saved. You just have to repeat.
So let's touch, that's rinse and repeat.
Rinse and
So
repeat,
Rinse
yes.
and repeat.
Yes.
So let's touch on that, and then I want to hit Frank's question and Jim, correct? And Jim's question, I want to make sure I remember the name. So on the bill payments, can you step people through how that works?
The bill payments,
Yeah.
so I just get an electric bill and I go into my account. I pick if it's traditional or Roth. I have 2 accounts, and then whatever the house is under, everything's saved there. I just go through it in a minute and put the amount in, hit the Illuminate Ohio Edison, and send. And it's done. No, if it's over, I believe is it $5,000?
Over 5,000.
You have to send the bill with it.
Yep.
Just proof.
And we do a verification. So you'll receive a code and you'll call us, and then you'll verbally verify the amount if it's over a certain amount. So we have controls in place internally to ensure that folks aren't trying to unscrupulously access your account, right, without you knowing it. And so one of those control mechanisms is if there's those higher dollar amounts that are attempting to be extracted, then we have that secondary level of verification.
And the website's phenomenal. Just details. I mean, if you want anything, it's there for you to see.
And as of recently, we now have the functionality for direct deposit, ACH deposits. So you can plug in the individual that you're paying, the account number and routing number, and then the for credit to if needed. And then we can send a direct deposit instead of you having to wait for a check or they wait for a check when you mail it out to them. So I know the way Candace in the past has done this is she has all the checks go to her. And in my experience, that's what I've seen. All the checks go to her, and then she gives them to the title company, gives it to the insurance company, gives it to the contractor, et cetera.
Well, contractors I do. The utilities and the insurance I just send direct.
Okay,
Yeah.
send direct.
I just, put in the memo the account number.
Yep.
If it's Ohio Edison, you just put the account number in the memo, and that's it. And that's even a lot of times saved, so. Yeah.
And then on the sale of the property, can you step us through how that works?
The sale of the property?
Yeah, the end sale. So deed, who's signing the deed, how you process the transaction.
So, yeah. He does that part.
So
they do, yeah.
the sale process is, I don't want to say you're not involved, you are involved, but.
Right.
Yep. So you're just filling out what we call sale direction of investment, and you're sending it in with the deed that we're signing. So Equity Trust will sign, right, going back to Equity Trust signing documents versus you signing documents, not because we're demanding that, but because title companies require it. So we're signing the deed over to the buyer. But for the
Right.
most part, on the sale side, you're talking about one form, you can document upload everything, and then Equity Trust will sign the document and send it out.
It's pretty much just 2 steps, the direction of investment, direction of sale.
Yep.
That's it. Very easy, very simple.
So that's that one there. Anything else here?
No, that was a
Okay.
pretty nice house, actually. Did not need much.
Frank?
We did put a new roof on that one.
So my question is, do you have a problem getting the utilities turned on? And, how do you get the utilities turned on?
So question is, how do you get the utilities turned on? In the name of the IRA, I assume, Frank, is what you're asking? Okay, well, what's your experience been, Candace? I can answer it too, but what's your experience been?
I don't generally have a problem putting them in.
They'll take it in the name of the IRA. Equity
Most
Trust
of the
Company,
time, yes.
Custodian, FBO, Candace's
Right.
IRA. Okay.
The reason why I asked that question is because in Kentucky, they have to have the social security number of someone to put it in your name.
So will they accept an EIN? Or-
Yeah, you can have an EIN.
Okay, so Equity Trust EIN, you can contact Equity Trust, and our customer service department will actually go online with your permission through an SS4 authorization, and they will go on the IRS website and actually apply for an EIN for your IRA. Then you could use that EIN with the name of the IRA for the utilities. I have seen, and not that this is 100% okay to do, but I have seen in the past where there's no other option but for the person to put the utilities in their name, but their IRA owns the property. From a prohibited transaction standpoint, as long as your IRA is in fact making those payments, then you should be okay, right? Because you're not personally writing the check. But I'll tell you, I have seen those types of circumstances. They're narrow circumstances, but where people do actually put the utilities in their personal name, and then their IRA is just making the payment.
Yeah, one of the small cities gave me, you know, they put it in my name, and then I had to redirect them, and I gave them my EIN.
Yep.
That I was, given, so.
Jim?
I have a question about the county auction. So you said you have 5 or 6 checks cut for various amounts of money, right, to prepare for the sale?
Just because of the different counties I go to.
Okay, and they're not specific to each county, and you cut the checks from the equity trust, correct?
Correct.
And you keep those, if you go to the same auction every month,
I keep them for a few months.
okay, and that's okay with equity trust?
Yeah, you have to be careful, you know, stale dating checks. And also keep in mind the county, you know, what if they don't accept the check? You know, if they consider it a stale dated check. So, you know, it would depend on the county.
I keep them up to 60
for,
tops.
yeah, from our perspective and from an IRS perspective, you're not taking that money and depositing it anywhere, right? So you're writing a check against the IRA, you're holding it in your hand, you're going to the auction. You know, don't let it go, you know, past 6 months. That could create an issue. If you never use the check, you want to make sure you send it back to Equity Trust Company and write on the back, did not use for purpose intended, and then we make sure that we get the cash available back in the account. When you send checks back in, make sure you're sending them back in at least some sort of certified mail with a tracking number. And that's one of those things I passionately speak about because I've done a lot of deals myself, and you know, I'm very wary of just sending in something by, you know, regular standard mail. You know, get a tracking number on there, no matter what it is that you're doing.
Especially if it's a $5,000 check, you don't want it lost.
Exactly. I don't know of
Right.
any title company, I don't know if this is a law or not, but I've never had a circumstance where a title company has just sent me back mortgage documents, recorded mortgage documents, or checks for the payoff of a loan just by regular mail.
No.
And a lot of times they make
never
me
do
sign
FedEx
for it.
Yes, absolutely.
They actually make you sign for it.
Right.
So this property here is in Bedford, and I know you guys have an updated picture because that was when you were still renovating it. But this property was bought by Gary's Roth IRA, purchased it for $68,000. And Candace, how much? Where did you buy the property? What auction?
This was Cuyahoga. I can't
Okay.
remember if it was a tax sale. I think it was just a foreclosure. Yeah, foreclosure.
So $68,000, same process as before. So here's the rinse and repeat. Put $20,000 worth of work into it using the bill pay system. New windows, AC, furnace, added a parking space, 1 bath. $900 per unit. And Gary, correct me if I'm wrong, but is it actually $950 on one and $900 on the other one?
Right, correct.
Okay, $950 and $900. So what would you say would be the net income per month?
Yeah, I was going to say.
$1,500.
14,
So about
15.
$1,500 coming into Gary's Roth IRA every month. That's tax-free, right? Because it's a Roth
Correct.
IRA.
Tax-free.
After repair value, $135 to $145. So you got $1,500 coming in every month. Now, if we fast forwarded to 60 years old, he's still got this income-producing rental. Technically speaking, he's got $1,500 tax-free coming in every month that he could turn around and distribute every month tax-free.
And this is where it comes in too with your due diligence, because a lot of investors thought this was a 2-bedroom, 1 bath each unit. And our realtor, he's an old-time guy, he knew he had been in the house several times. He had sold the house like 30 years ago. And he said, this is a 3-bedroom, 1 bath. So we lucked out because that's how it's listed.
Yep.
As a 2-bedroom, so nobody knew that.
Yep.
So it was an advantage.
So this one, IRA bought the property in Maple Heights, $31,125, cash purchase, repairs of $30,000, total investment $71,500, sold it for $116,000.
Mustang, yeah, that was a Maple.
Mustang.
Well, that's okay. That
25,
picture is
875.
similar. The house is white and brick, but it's the same style. It's a colonial. So we're good.
So now, Candace, on this one, this was your IRA?
This was Gary's.
Gary's IRA.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. And it was a nice house. That's dead end street. This was 75 Gary's Roth, and we did 25 out of the, our own funds. So at that time, we didn't have enough to do the whole deal. So that's how we structured it. You always want to make sure there's a cushion in your account to make sure there's money for taxes, utilities, something comes up. So you always want to make sure that you have a cushion there. So that's why we did the 25%. We didn't want to, go to tilt the Roth.
So to make sure everyone's got this right, entered into a purchase contract, right? There was no LLC involved or other entity, right? Just your IRA as tenants and common owners, right? That's the way you take title to the property when you're partnering with your IRAs, tenants and common owners. Undivided interest with the percentage broken out. So it was equity, trust company, custodian, FBOs, and for benefit of. Mm-hmm. Gary's Roth IRA, undivided interest, 75%.
Correct.
And I assume you used, was it Home Sweet Homes LLC?
Right.
Okay, so Home Sweet Homes LLC, undivided interest, 25%. So Roth IRA owned at 75%. Home Sweet Homes LLC, which is Gary's single member LLC,
correct,
owns it 25%. Enters into the purchase arrangement. $10,375. Repairs $30,000. So 25% of all of the repairs were paid for from Gary's LLC, 75% from Gary's Roth IRA, right? Has to be done 75-25. He can't pay for 100% of the repairs with his own personal money and then stuff the money back into his IRA. He's a disqualified person to his LLC. That would be prohibited. That's obviously not what he did. 75-25 throughout the process. In it for $71,500, sold it for $116,000, $10,000 in closing costs. So when you split it up, 75% went back to the Roth IRA, which comes out to be $25,875, and then the cash profit is $8,625. Yes, Jim.
So $25.75. Did you literally write every check out, every single thing you paid for? Was 25% of the contract?
It was worth it. For that little profit there, it was worth it.
I've seen people as well use a sort of like an intermediary where their IRA is writing a check ahead of time. They're writing a check ahead of time. They're creating sort of a slush fund, if you will. Mm-hmm. Any overage amount is just split up and sent back to the respective entities. You'll hear from Jan tomorrow. She used a general contractor and did a JV with a general contractor. And so the general contractor was paying for, I believe, some of the labor and materials, but she was also cutting installment payment checks to that general contractor. And each IRA, her husband Gary's IRA, and her daughter Brittany's Roth IRA, was cutting a percentage of the total amount requested.
This was on the MLS. It wasn't a sheriff's sale. It was just a regular foreclosure HUD.
So this is in Bedford, correct?
Right.
I want to make sure our pictures are right.
It is. Actually, this one just went on the market a couple days ago, right? Yeah, it just went on the market. We just listed 5 properties, and I'm trying to think of this one.
And is this one IRA, two IRAs?
Mine.
This is just your IRA,
right.
Okay.
He never has money.
So you have properties, though, right?
This one was a sheriff's sale, regular sheriff's sale foreclosure. Repairs were a lot on this one. We didn't anticipate to put that much into it, but we did. And it hasn't sold yet. That's what we're asking.
28.1 profit.
Correct.
Oh, great question. So like with Gary's Roth IRA investment, the one in Bedford, the double, with an IRA, whether Roth or traditional, you're exempt from taxes in each incremental year. It's like buying a stock or mutual fund, right? You don't pay any dividend income tax, you don't pay any ordinary income tax, capital gains tax, et cetera. So you have no income, therefore you have no income to offset leveraging the depreciation. I'm glad you brought up depreciation recapture, which is something a lot of people aren't aware of or they don't think about or consider. So when you sell the property in your IRA, you don't have to worry about recapture depreciation because in the IRA it's exempt already. So you have no long-term capital gains tax when you sell the property. For Gary's Roth IRA, he doesn't pay any taxes when he takes the money out either. So he doesn't have to worry about any tax whatsoever going forward.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Exactly. With an IRA, there's no income you have to claim. And the only reason why you would do anything with depreciation or recapture depreciation is because you're trying to write off that income. You're trying to show no income through depreciating the property. That's the whole purpose of owning rental properties, not in an IRA, owning rental properties outside of an IRA is being able to leverage depreciation. And all you're doing is deferring the tax, right? Because to your point, you have recapture depreciation. For those of you who aren't familiar with recapture depreciation, not that this is a CPA discussion or a session on accountancy, but just a brief primer, recapture depreciation is, let's say you buy a property for $100,000. That's your basis, right? They call that your basis. You buy it for $100,000. And then you depreciate it over 10 years. And let's say you depreciate, writing off your income by $2,000 every year. So your total depreciation over 10 years is how much? $20,000. So now you have $20,000 in depreciation. You sell that property, let's say, for $100,000. Your basis is $100,000. You sell it for $100,000. So you're thinking to yourself, oh, great, I don't have to pay any taxes on this, right? What happens is that $20,000 in depreciation recaptures. So your basis goes from $100,000 to $80,000. You sold it for $100,000. Therefore, you have to pay capital gains on $20,000. Does that make sense? Okay. With an right, exactly. If you, yep. So now in an IRA, you don't have that tax burden because everything is tax exempt.
So does that also apply to amortization of, like, if you held it for a while, you apply to the amortize over the useful life of that?
Correct.
So that wouldn't apply either.
Correct, because it's yeah, you're not there's no income to offset or no income to write off. Yep, absolutely.
But in the same manner, if it's 25% owned by the LLC, they have to do that for their portion.
Yes, that's a great point. So he owns it 25%, which means his LLC gets to write off 25% of the depreciation, right? 25% of all the expenses in order to make an attempt to offset his income for that 25%. Absolutely, that's a good point. So that being said, let's go ahead and shut it down here. What I would like to do is give Candace and Gary a big round of applause. Thank you very much.